What's up, family, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we are going to have a different conversation. And I know I say that every time, but I actually mean it today. Today, we're going to talk about how can atheists change the world, or maybe even save the world. But we'll focus just on change for right now. I have a few notes here. It actually started as just like 3 pages of notes and then evolved into more than 3 pages of notes. So we'll see how long it takes us to get through this. I might have to break some of this up a little bit. But the big point in this conversation is talk about ways that we as non-believers, we as secular humanists, those of us who identify as atheist, agnostic, or any of the like, people who identify as non-religious, I want to talk today about some practical ways that we can actually make a difference. Many of you know that I spend time every now and then talking about how I don't really engage in fear mongering and what's the other thing? Leapfrogging. So today we're going to focus on things that we can easily do that will have exponential impact on the world that we live in. And these are actually all fairly small things. They're just really valuable. They're things that nearly anybody can do. For sure, more people can do. There are plenty of people who need these things. And so these are things that we can easily start organizing ourselves around to do more, to provide more, and to help us get to a more progressive society. Are y'all interested in this conversation? I am. All right. So listen, if you haven't already, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that alert notification bell. Consider joining, supporting, or connecting with this community channel or content in any way that makes sense for you. And then, of course, make sure to share this video with somebody who you know will get some value out of this conversation. And then, of course, last but not least, check out our wonderfully amazing line of products. We have merch, which is dope as fuck, and we have books. Check them all out. Books are on Amazon. Merch you can find at windowshop.dldd.us, and that's window with a Y, or you can find it right here on YouTube. All right. So, so for those of you who've been rocking with the channel for a little bit, especially those of you who've been rocking with us on Sundays and Discord, you know, a major part of what we do is the Bridge in Bridge City, where we have these values. We call it the Bridge City difference, where we are progressive thinking, people centric, and life affirming. Right? And so today we're actually going to talk a little bit about some life affirming things that we can be doing as individuals and as a community to change the world around us. Are y'all ready to jump into this? So as secular communities continue to grow and establish our own identities, we're faced with the challenge of finding new ways to provide meaningful services and experiences apart from frameworks traditionally associated with religious superstition. And beautifully, over recent decades, secular humanists have made great strides in addressing this challenge. And it might be time for us to understand the importance of getting more people in the game. From officiating weddings and funerals to organizing naming ceremonies and coming of age celebrations, these offerings not only fill a cultural and social gap, but also humanize the secular experience. By supporting people during life's pivotal moments without relying on dogma, secular leaders can help normalize the decision to separate from doctrinal communities and affirm the authenticity of human experiences. This approach humanizes individuals in their authentic existence and invites members of the secular community to participate, creating a stronger, more cohesive movement that can resonate locally and across the globe. Each of these services isn't just about meeting a cultural need. It's about reinforcing the idea that people can thrive, cooperate, and find meaning without relying on dogmatic frameworks. By offering tangible support, acknowledgement, and celebration of real human experiences, we position secular communities as valuable, life affirming spaces that empower individuals and strengthen communal ties. Today, I want to highlight a variety of services and some practical steps for leaders to qualify themselves, ensuring that secular communities not only provide these meaningful moments, but do so effectively and compassionately. All right, so Let's talk about one that's really easy that we're already in on and it's beautiful. We just need more of it. And those are secular weddings. And I often remind people that the word secular is often unneeded. We're using it, of course, just to be very clear, but it's often unneeded. To be honest, most weddings are secular weddings. The preacher is just there for cosplay. You know what I'm saying? You know, I don't know if you've been to any of the receptions at many of these weddings. Trust me, ain't no Christians there. Now let me stop. But no, many weddings are secular weddings. And then watch this, there will be people who even identify as religious who may prefer a secular wedding ceremony. You know what I'm saying? It absolutely becomes a viable and even valuable option in homes where people have or homes of mixed faith. And I'm not even just talking about something like, one person's a Muslim and the other person's a Christian. I'm talking about stuff where one person's a Baptist and the other one's a Methodist, and they can't decide on which family's pastor is going to do the wedding without causing a whole bunch of friction. All right, well, let's bring in a neutral party. That would be the secular officiant. But secular weddings, it's celebrate union, love, and partnership without any need for religious undertones or without any of the barriers that some religious officiants require their people to go through in order to get married. At the end of the day, it becomes a very like permissive situation, like marriage, like damn, especially in the faith, which I kind of broke away from when I was a believer. Um, yeah, I didn't believe I needed anybody's blessing to get married, but that's weird. In the faith, you need the parents' blessings first, but then also you need the pastor's approval to get married. And I know as recent as 20 years ago, that was still common in many churches, where you would go through the premarital counseling, and if the pastor didn't pass you, you can get married. Not at his church, not by him or any of the ministers there. And if you went somewhere else and got married, your marriage would not be recognized at that church, and neither would your membership. Yeah, church became a very weird place. Um, but secular weddings affirm that love and commitment are deeply human values, not dependent on any need of divine blessing. They normalize non-religious unions, showcasing that meaning, romance, and partnership can flourish in a humanist context. As more couples choose secular ceremonies, the secular community grows in visibility and acceptance, influencing broader social attitudes about love and marriage. You know, and it's again, this is what we're going to be talking about through this whole thing. Small things that we can be doing that make exponential impact. Weddings are a fabric, are part of the fabric of our culture. It's where language gets repeated, things get embedded. It's a part of ritual. This is what builds our cultural fabric. And so if you want to change the cultural fabric, weddings are one way, the more secular weddings that are out there. And again, it's like this thing that I've been talking about, just with the spread of atheism and humanism. A part of it is more people are seeing it as an option. And when people can see that there are more options, people are willing to ponder on selecting more options. So a major flaw in our strategy right now, which, and I can't really speak to that. I don't know what our strategy is. But whatever the strategy is, one thing we've got to amp up is our visibility. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, oh yeah, we're all over YouTube, but we're not all in people's communities. You know what I'm saying? And that's what some of these things do. It takes us from just being on the screen to in the streets. Uh, yeah, yeah, that's preacher talk. Yes, it is. Um, but yeah, so, and again, and I think I just said that the secular community grows in visibility and acceptance with every secular wedding we officiate. With every secular wedding we're a part of, the secular community is growing in visibility and acceptance. The wedding itself is damn near evidence of that. It's like the seal of acceptance. The fact that there are several people willing to be a part of this secular ceremony. you know But people are part of secular ceremonies every damn day, you know. Okay, but anyway, so let's go. Um, some suggested qualifications and some few steps you can take is, of course, study your local marriage laws and licensing procedures, so you can be a well-informed, and I was going to say a well-informed informant. I'm not asking anybody to be an informant. Be a well-informed officiant. Learn basic ceremony structures, vows, and cultural traditions. Because here's the thing: even though some people will want, even people who want secular ceremonies, still sometimes want some of the religious ritual, or some of the religious ceremony part without the belief attached to it and stuff like that. From a more cultural perspective, they may have some things that they did or that they're used to people doing in the religious ceremony that they want to keep without keeping the actual religious part itself. And so educating yourself on various ceremony structures, various vows, and just definitely different cultural traditions will make you an incredible asset. Because and then there's the other thing, some people don't know what they want, and they want options. Again, we're we are very attracted to options as a species. But no, some people know they want to get married, they want to do something different, and the idea of having a secular wedding is 100% new to them. You can be a catalog of resources for that person to say, okay, well, if you're looking at some Hindu or Indian traditions or indigenous traditions, some Australian traditions, are you looking? Here's some West African traditions, some East African traditions, some South African traditions, here's some Central American traditions. What about some Hawaiian traditions? But so you have. Do you see how much of this is about the human experience? And so you have an option to be kind of like a purveyor of human experience and provide that to people. Um, of course, develop communication skills to personalize ceremonies. That is important. Communication skills are important. And honestly, I know we teach communication, and I teach it every now and then, but I've taught a few communication courses. I don't get a lot of joy out of teaching communication courses. Now, I love teaching leadership courses. I like teaching theology courses. I love teaching history courses. I've never really liked teaching communication courses, and I am 100% passionate about communication. But I feel that communication skills are best honed in mutually beneficial conversation, you know, because that's what good communication is. It's something that is mutually beneficial. Bad communication is often very selfish. Bad communication is often very one-sided. You know, good communication is mutually beneficial conversation. And when you can create mutually beneficial conversation, even without the other people engaging in the conversation, you've mastered some communication skills. But the way you do that is you actually have to spend time in conversation, honing those active listening skills. And actually, it's like what I call autocorrecting. You got to learn how to autocorrect, self-check, because you're adjusting yourself as the conversation goes. Because when you're having the conversation, you're getting new information, and so you should be adjusting yourself with the new information. So a big point is develop your communication skills so that you can personalize those ceremonies and make them an experience, man. Some people want something a little comedic, like when I do things, I'm me, and people tend to enjoy me. So I'm a little bit comedic. I can be cinematic. I can definitely be dramatic and intense, So I like to, I'm animated. So I like to give that full experience, but that's because that's a part of my authentic existence, you know. If you said, "Hey, I want you to come do our wedding ceremony, but you move your hands too much, so we want you to move your hands less." And I was like, "No, you want somebody else who doesn't move their hands as much because I move my hands, and I'm not gonna not move my hands for you. I'm not a pastor anymore, so I don't have to do that bullshit." You know what I'm saying? And you see that, and then that way, what I just did for some people is help you who that was a concern for you. Like, man, what if I sign up to do stuff like this and people want to do this? You don't have to do shit the way the Christians did it. You can be very clear about what you are going to do and what you're not going to do, who you are and who you're not, and you know, what they say, different strokes for different folks. You know, I respect that some people want somebody who's less animated. What I don't respect is you coming to somebody who is animated, asking them to be less animated for you. Don't do that. If you want somebody who's less animated, pick somebody who's less animated. In the same way, don't pick somebody who's less animated and then go like, but I want you to be more animated. No, pick somebody who's more animated. Don't do that shit. Okay, so, and then last one for this one, so we can move on, is consider joining officiant associations or seeking mentorship from experienced celebrants. And that is something that we will be doing. That we'll be doing through the Bridge and Bridge City. We will be offering, Bridge is our association for secular communities and secular community leaders. And then we will be offering mentorship for people who are interested in becoming celebrants for wedding ceremonies and the like. And doing these things helps ensure that secular participants and leaders present a confident, informed front, making secular unions appealing, legitimate, and respected. But there's another side of that coin. Not only are there secular weddings that we can be helpful in, there's also secular funerals, right? A time to honor the deceased, offer comfort to the bereaved, and provide a space to reflect on a life well lived without religious undertones. A secular funeral reaffirms that every human story matters. By crafting ceremonies focused on the individual's life, values, and relationships, we show that death can be honored without invoking supernatural narratives. This normalizes grieving and memory sharing in purely human terms. As communities witness secular funerals that are compassionate and dignified, secular perspectives on mortality gain acceptance and respect in the wider culture. And then I can only imagine how many people would begin to prefer secular funerals as more officiants are available and more spaces are available to be able to have a ceremony without any appeals to the afterlife, without any appeals to tell somebody get right because life is short and you don't know when the Lord is going to take you. And tonight, when you close your eyes, if he took you, would you land on this side or would you land on the hot side? If you're lukewarm today, you're going to be hot tomorrow. If you lose your life tonight, I'm telling you, God damn, let's get away from that shit. Let's create safer spaces. And the truth of the matter is, I've conducted enough funerals. I've been through enough of these things happening where I find in many cases, the families would prefer no religious undertone because it creates complications and most times puts the preacher in the spot where he has to lie. Got to talk about how good Johnny was to convince everybody Johnny was going to heaven, even though both of Johnny's wives are sitting on the front row. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, well, one of them is a wife. The other one is I was going to say midwife, but that's not how that works. Okay, so some suggested qualifications here is learn grief counseling basics and active listening techniques. Active listening is going to be a big one. Anytime you're dealing with people, you need to actually be listening to them. This is one of the reasons I started getting disillusioned with mentors in the urban churches, because I began to realize that many of them were not good at active listening. And that was just surprising to me. But now it's not. But research various cultural funeral traditions for inclusive service planning. And then also, because, I'm a stay progressive kind of guy. So also look at their new options. People can get, boiled down to diamonds or something. I'm sure it's not boiled, but, because you don't boil stuff to get diamonds, I don't think. But, people can get turned into diamonds. They can get turned into rocks. Whatever they want to do, the more, those are options, and people have a right to consider whatever options they want, and they need to be able to feel safe discussing those options. And sometimes, if the only people they have to turn to are just the religious institutions, there's always going to be these undertones of, oh, but you don't want to do nothing to the body because what if the Lord comes back? You got all this type of stuff going on. And so you just want to talk to somebody who doesn't care about any of that bullshit and is just here to help you. And they're not going to put any of their religious, bath water or placenta or whatever else on you. They're just going to, help you know the options. There's cremation, there's turning them into rocks, rock transformation, transformers, transformation. Yeah, okay. You got all different. I think you can turn people into cell phones now. Like, it's all types of things. There are options. Me personally, I think I want my body to stay intact, but I think that's because I'm a narcissist. That might be that. Like, I think I might just want to live forever, and I just hoping that if technology comes right after I croak, just go in the mausoleum, give me the shot, and then I'm coming back. I'm back. No, let me stop. I do joke about stuff like that quite often, though. Practice writing eulogies and personal reflections tailored to the deceased values and relationships. And then another interesting thing that the secular community can offer a little different than what the religious institutions did is that not only could you offer to provide the eulogy services, you could also offer to provide support for family members who want to eulogize their own deceased. And that's not a service that churches by far and large actually provided people, because we created this space like, oh no, only anointed people can eulogize folk. I blame the Catholic Church for that bullshit. But no, anybody can do this shit. If you ever figure out how easy it is to ordain somebody, like, you'd be like, oh my fucking God, this has been a scam the whole damn time. Anybody could have done this shit. Like, oh man, it's bad. It's bad. But it's not bad. It's just, we had a lot of superstitious attachments to it. But no, none of this shit is hard. But you may, that would be an interesting service to be able to offer to people, instead of just saying, yeah, I'm going to be the guy that comes in to handle it all for you. You can also be the guy to say, no, I can help you. If there's somebody in your family that you want them to be able to do this, we can help them, practice writing their eulogies. We can help them writing their personal reflections. We can help them keep everything kind of together and stuff. So there's different things that we can do. And then, of course, seek training in death education or bereavement support services. And ultimately, these steps help leaders and communities guide families through loss without religious dogma, validating secular approaches to honoring life's end. This is good stuff. This conversation is going better than I thought it would. And I hope that y'all are finding this information helpful. Either something, maybe it's giving you something to think about possibly doing, like, ooh, I can do this. And if you are, and you're like, I don't know where to start, holla at your boy. You know what I'm saying? I'd love to help you get started. Somehow, I got to get the bandwidth, but we're building a team. So yes, we're going to build this fucking team. All right. Naming ceremonies. Okay. Welcome new children or adults adopting new identities into the community, recognizing their individuality and future potential. Naming ceremonies center the individual's identity and sense of self. For children, it's a way to celebrate their entry into human society without tying their worth to religious initiation. For adults, renaming themselves, it's acknowledging personal growth, autonomy, and transformation. As more people witness these inclusive, uplifting ceremonies, the secular community's supportive and forward-thinking nature stands out, encouraging global adoption of similar practices. This is a big one. This is a big one, especially for adults. And this falls in so many categories, right? There are trans people who would benefit from these services, but there are also people who go through divorce who will benefit from these services. There are also people who go through what we'll just kind of call family detachment, like a social family detachment, where they decide that they no longer want to be associated with the family they were born in by name, and they decide to change their last or their first or their whole name. You know, people change their names for many reasons. And it's a common practice, which is why I don't know why we make a big stink of it when people in the pride community do it. We've been doing this forever. You know what I'm saying? It's damn near a religious practice, you know. In ancient religions, I think all of the Orthodox churches still do it. Once you're ordained into a certain category, your name is changed. Hallelujah. Remember, God changed folks' name all the damn time, you know. So anyway, name changing ceremonies, name changing rituals can be highly beneficial, highly healing, highly transformative, and just opportunities that, and I hope we're seeing the trend here is that all of these are ways that we as a community come together to celebrate individuals. And this is how we shift the scales. This is how we continue to trend upward by supporting individuals as a community. You know what I'm saying? And it's funny because by doing this, we're supporting several individuals. We're supporting the individuals who need these services. But also as a community, we're supporting the individuals who want to provide these services, you know? And then also we're supporting the individuals who want to see these services in action. We're also supporting the individuals who want to participate in these types of things just because they like going places and eating with folk, which is really human. Eating together is one of the greatest ways to get us comfortable with each other, you know? But so I hope we can see how important things like this are and how impactful they can be. A few suggested qualifications and tips: study naming traditions worldwide to inspire some creative ceremonies, you know? And I mean, that's the thing. Like, we don't have any restrictions. Like, this is what I honestly, certain things I don't understand why the secular community is slow to do. Like, I understood why the church was slow to do things because they always had to check with God. You know, we as in the church, we always had to make sure that what we were doing was in line with the spirit of the Lord. We had to make sure that it was in line with the word, line upon line, precept upon precept. You understand? We had to make sure that we weren't out moving, outpacing God. No, we got to wait on God now. We got to slow down. We don't have any of those problems. We don't have any of those restrictions. So I don't understand the slothfulness here. You know, like, nah, we should be fired up, bro. Like, we should be okay. That's just me. But yeah. So because I'm just saying, like, our shit could be off the fucking chain because we don't have any restrictions. You know, churches had to pray about whether or not to upgrade their auditoriums with contemporary lighting and contemporary technology. And the secular community acts the fucking same way. And I'm like, how is it that the people who have to check with their imaginary friend, how are they outpacing us? Who the fuck is slowing us down? You know, they had to pray to end up deciding that, you know what, it might be a good idea to use technology as a way of communicating better and keeping up. How are churches catching that before the secular community? Come on, secular community. Let's not be behind churches in technology. It's not a good sign. That's not a good sign. I'm telling you, that's not a flex. That is not a flex. Being behind on technology, and like, no, it's not a flex. It's not a flex. We should be able to look around, look at what works, and integrate it and see if it works for us. And if it doesn't, take the shit out. It's that fucking simple. Fail at it, get it out your system. Try some shit, you know? I tell people in a few of my counseling sessions, people say, I don't understand why my life isn't working or whatever. You know, it's a common thing. This is a real people problem. And in most cases, I can, after a few sessions, I can say I got the answer for you. And they're like, why? You're not trying. You're just waking up every day. You're just doing the same thing every day. You're not getting up saying, what can I do today to get me closer to where I want to be? You know what I'm saying? That's the secular community is doing the same fucking thing in many ways. Not all of us. Obviously, there's some great people out here doing some great work. But God damn it, I'm a coach, so I'm gonna talk my fucking talk. In many cases, we are doing the same fucking thing. We're just waking up every day, having our conversations. But we're not actually proactively thinking, how can we go further today than we did yesterday? And that has to be an everyday type of focus, if we are truly concerned about the rest of the world. But as I've stated many times, it seems that many people in the secular community have put their faith in politicians. And to me, that is no different than putting your faith in a celebrity. That is no different than putting your faith in a fucking savior. There are no saviors, period. And I mean, mathematically, the minority can't save the majority. It's bad math. It's bad math. It's how we keep getting in these fucked up situations because we keep feeling safe to take our hands off the wheels of our own fucking lives. We are here acting like we on the fucking magic school bus. You know what I'm saying? No. You have to wake up every fucking day and be intentional about the things you want to see in this world. You voting doesn't give you a free pass to chill for the next 4 damn years. The voting should be the cherry on the top. It should be, I worked my ass off to see the type of society that I want to live in, and my vote is the cherry on the top. This is why we keep losing. I'm just telling you. I'm telling you now. We're losing because we're not fucking doing the work. And this is the work. And the good news is I'm showing you that in many cases, the work is easy. If we stop leapfrogging and actually start dealing with the things right in front of us, the things that we're capable of doing. I often ask people when they tell me all the things that they couldn't possibly do. And I'm like, why would you spend so much time talking about the things you couldn't possibly do? Why would you not spend more time thinking about the things that you know that you can do? And then most times you find out it's because most people do not want to do the things that they can do. They want to be comfortable about the things that they can't do. I'm sorry, I got in coach mode, but I'm gonna talk my talk. I think I even went into Jim Rohn a little bit. Get comfortable, I don't know if y'all know who Jim Rohn is. Definitely a magical thinking type of guy. So I like Jim sort of, but I told you I have issues with the motivational speaking racket because much of it is just as superstitious as churches, and there are some good ones, and I mean some really good ones, but man, there are a lot of scam artists in that racket, But I think it's also because these people are realizing something that the secular community is now, starting to realize, and maybe we've been realizing it for the past few decades, and that is people like to gather. People like to group. People like to gather. People like to grow. We are a fucking social species. Now, I don't know if that will always be the case because we're generative, iterative product of evolution. We're an iterative generation of evolution. So I don't know if we'll always be that way, but as of now, we are. So the people who are winning are the people who create more opportunities for socializing. The more opportunities for socializing you create, the more of a community impact you create. Some of this stuff is really just basic math. Because believe it or not, It's never a good idea to oversimplify things, right? Never a good idea to oversimplify. But I do want to say some of this stuff is oversimplified. Like, it's so simple. Like, we've been talking about this in our Sunday sessions. It's wax on, wax off. Your problem is you're expecting to wax on, wax off today and to be fucking Kung Fu Panda tomorrow. And it's like, no, just these smaller strokes, man. Small strokes make masterpieces. Big doors swing on small hinges. If we focus on waxing on and waxing off, we can change the world around us. All right. Dang, I sound too preachy. So let's come back. All right. So you can learn about child development stages to incorporate meaningful wishes or ideas. You can celebrate with families to craft ceremonies reflecting their unique values, and consider taking basic courses in celibacy and ritual design. Leaders who excel here help the community appreciate human identity as a human-centered concept, strengthening the global narrative around secular rights. And a big thing that I want to hit here is there are a lot of things that in order to do, a lot of services that in order to provide, you need to have a graduate level degree, right? There are a lot of things, and those things are incredibly important. But please understand that there are many, many more things that can be done that do not require all of that and are just as significantly important. Just requires a little, what I call professionalism. I know some people don't like that word for whatever reason. I don't give a damn. Professionalism, which I define as thorough concern. If you're willing to be thoroughly concerned about the work you're doing, the services you're providing, and the impact they have on the people you're providing them to, you can excel in damn near anything, And so some of these things, like, because I know that becomes a discourage, because church created this fucking great wall of Oz around this shit, around much of this stuff, that made you think there was like this secret handshake and secret ritual process you had to go through in order to be able to do any of this. And it's just like, no, those dudes just went to the Christian bookstore and bought the book with the ritual stuff in it. It's just there. It's a little book, preacher's manual, and you just got little nice things you can say. And most of that shit don't even come from the Bible. It's just something that somebody else came up with. And so that's why I just said, oh, well, I'll just make up my own stuff then. I don't like parroting other people's words. But yeah, it's the biggest thing that I'd suggest people do are just take a few micro courses in whatever area you're going to be focused on, and then be committed to developing as you grow. Start where you start, but as you're offering services, grow. Every year, take some more courses. That's thorough concern, And I do with almost, if you're doing anything with people, I do suggest take a few courses of sociology and a few psychology courses. I'm not as big on the psychology courses, not because I don't think they're valuable. Psychology courses could fuck you up a little bit. It'll make you think that because you done took 6 months of, course credit, that now you out here Dr. Phil and shit. And we don't need that happening. All right. I got to get through this. Coming of age celebrations, similar to quinceañeras and bar mitzvahs, they mark the transition from childhood to adolescence or adulthood with meaning, reflection, and community support. And that's something you have to think about. Some people, when they're deconverting, those are experiences that they're giving up, may or may not be giving up. Those are actually bad examples, because many Jews are secular. There are many Jews who are atheists, so they still have their mitzvahs and mitzvahs. I think I'm saying that right. But they still have those, even when they no longer attach themselves to the beliefs. They still have those cultural celebrations. Which, in that sense, I will say that is something that the secular community can do well to spend some time exploring. is how these secular Jewish communities have maintained to keep their religious rights without having any attachment to the superstition. To actually research why would they make such designation and how has it impacted them, if it's been positive, if it's been negative, and if it's something that we can learn from, you know? It's often our arrogance that keeps us from learning. Oh, this is good. I feel like I'm back in church growth stuff now. But no, it's often our arrogance that keeps us from learning. This sense of not being able to look at what somebody else is doing and think, "Ooh, should I be doing that?" Like, if you can't do that, like you're here to lose, man. If you're not watching the other teams play and be like, "Oh, can we do that?" Then like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, don't be acting like you're LeBron. I don't know enough about basketball to say somebody who's like not LeBron. Like, who sucks in basketball? I don't know. Well, hell, in the NBA, I guess nobody sucks. You had to do a lot of shit to get there, right? I don't know. I really don't know. So by offering secular coming of age events, communities emphasize personal growth, responsibility, and ethical maturity without tying it to religious obedience or purity culture or anything like that. This approach fosters critical thinking and emotional resilience in youth. Internationally, normalizing secular rites of passage shows that young people can inherit cultural richness and ethical frameworks grounded in human solidarity, not divine command. A few things you can do to qualify yourself if you're interested in this is familiarize yourself with common cultural rites of passage. And if you see, the key thing with all of this stuff is just know about what you're trying to do. That's like the first step in anything is know what the fuck you doing, you know? But like, nah, people like, I just don't know where to start. You start with figuring shit out. Like most times when people tell me they don't know where to start, I know that they've not started, you know? Because you're not going to know where to start. There isn't a start line. That's the poetry. It's not the picture. The starting place is wherever the fuck you start. The answer to that question is like, where do I start? Wherever the fuck you are. You can't moonwalk to a different spot. You have to start wherever the fuck you are. And so most times is picking up your fucking phone or your laptop and going to Google or whatever you like to use and typing in, how do I start whatever it is you're trying to start? And be a good idea. This is probably one of the most valid uses of AI at this moment. The most efficacious is talk that shit through with an AI. Because at that moment you're not asking it to give you any type of objective truths. You're not asking it to answer your, do your test or anything like that, or give you legal advice. You're talking out how to get started with whatever the thing is you want to start. You know, again, remember earlier I was telling you sometimes in my coaching sessions with people when they tell me like, why is this not? And after a few sessions, I'll tell them, oh, it's because you're not trying. You know, but that's a byproduct of being raised by people who constantly said they tried their best and you never saw them do their best. So you don't even know what best looks like. You don't know what trying looks like. So now trying to you is just a word you say. A lot of people say they're trying and are actually not. You're just living. You ain't trying to do nothing. You know, imagine standing on a diving board while other people are waiting behind you for you to jump and you don't jump. You're just like, I'm trying. No, we see you. You're not trying. You're just standing there. You got to actually jump. If you don't make the jump, you're not trying. If this doesn't stretch you, you're not trying. You know, I know people don't like to hear that, but shit is what it is. That's what it was for me. And I was doing wonderful things. I was doing incredible things for nearly 2 decades of my life. But in 2017, 3 years after I deconverted, I had the solemn realization, the sober realization, shameful realization, sorrowful realization that you don't have the things that you think you should have because you were never trying to get those things. You wanted those things, but you weren't trying to get them. You had been disconnected from trying because you thought praying was trying. You thought that if you just do what the Lord wants you to do, that was trying. But that's not how cause and effect works, motherfucker. If you want to get that, you have to put energy on that. And what I realized is I had not put any energy on that. I've talked to people several times who say, I just don't understand why I'm not making the money that I want to make. And I say, okay, tell me where you work at. And they'll tell me where they work. I say, how long you been working at? How much money do you want to make? Then why the fuck are you working here? What you mean? There is no world where this company is ever going to have that amount of money for you. Like I had this company, man, I just, so I said, you're not going to get it from here. So the longer you stay here, the longer you're not going to get any closer to there. So I'm not telling you to just quit and move on. But I am telling you, if that's where you're trying to go, you're going to need a plan to get there. This may be where you're starting, but this will never lead you there. Try. And so that's, y'all know me. I'm really big on helping people kind of regain their autonomy, their own sense of agency, their own sense of authenticity, and letting them you can live your life on your terms, but you have to be the one to get up every day and do the living, And the more people we have doing that, the more of a profound difference we can make in the world around us, So dang, I'm getting a lot out of this, and we just supposed to be talking about coming of age stuff. But develop mentoring relationships to guide youth through planning their ceremony, offer workshops or retreats focusing on ethics, responsibility, and personal identity, seek youth mentorship training or youth leadership certificates. Equipped leaders can support global secular youth networks, building a new generation confident in their human-based moral reasoning. Now, one thing and maybe y'all tell me if y'all have seen this. Are there any secular alternatives to stuff like Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts? Because I've been waiting for that my whole life. I've actually started well, not my whole life, but for 10 years at least. Because I'm like, no, that's a need. That's a real need for a lot of real reasons, So if y'all let me know if anything like that already exists. But because that's something we could be doing. All right, so let's continue. Dang it. Another one, visitation or chaplain services. Provide emotional support, conversation, and companionship in hospitals, hospices, or during challenging life situations without appeals to any religious narratives. Secular visitation or chaplain services assure that compassion and emotional care are universal human values, not the property of any faith tradition. Patients and families can feel acknowledged as human beings deserving comfort. Normalizing these services worldwide demonstrates that care and empathy aren't the domain of religious clergy alone, fostering a global shift in how people access emotional support. And we do have quite a few people who are in hospice care situations. We have a lot of veterans who are non-believers as well, who sometimes struggle to find non-religious support. Because even sometimes we may assume that people who are non-religious don't need comfort. Now, well, they don't believe in heaven or hell, so they don't need anybody at the hospital talking to them. The fuck? It was never about heaven or hell. Like, this is the thing I keep trying to tell people about religion. Religion was never about any of the things that we couldn't prove. That's just the script we used. Nobody, there are people, the people who are afraid of hell is a small percentage. A small percentage. Most of the people going to church, they're not afraid of hell. That's why they're not tithing. Because they're not afraid. They're not afraid. It's like, kids who are afraid of their mama, but they're not really afraid of their mama. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's like. But let me stop. But no, these services are important, to be able to offer people that sense of comfort, that sense of humanity, that sense of compassion and companionship in their final days or not even in their final days, just when they're going through a tough time period. Maybe they broke a leg, you know. Anytime, as a pastor, anytime something happened to not just to members of my church, but members of our community at large, I got a phone call and I'd go to the hospital and I'd sit with the family. And I used to be so nervous in the beginning because I'm like, what are they expecting me to do? Because I couldn't understand, like, it has to be the pastor. And I'm like, oh, I hope they ain't expecting me to do no miracles because I've left that part. I don't try those. I don't try that anymore. I've had a few disappointing encounters. Um, and that's another difference that we can make in the secular community is move away from that prioritization of it has to be this religious authoritative figure. No, it just needs to be a person who cares about stuff like this. Period. You know, especially for those things. A lot of those things for like the hospice visits, there were old ladies in my church who would have been better equipped at doing that than I was. You know, I got good at it now, but I promise you that there would have been some old ladies that I could have called on in my church and said, "Hey, such and such is down in the hospital," and they would have been so happy to go down there and talk them folks' head off, because ultimately that's all it is keeping people comfortable, keeping their spirits kind of up, keeping them encouraged, But yeah, and that's the thing. Like there was so many things in the church world that got designated to me that I felt kind of robbed other people of value, while also ignoring the fact that, like, I may not even be the best one to do this, and the way that I move today, I like to use the best tool for the job, you know. Yeah, I like to use the best tool for the job. Like, I'm not the best tool for funerals, you know, not religious ones anyway, because I don't attach to death the way that other people do. I am an empathetic crier, and so I think that confuses people about me because I'll cry because other people are crying, but I'm not sad. Like, I don't attach to it that way, I'm sorry. I don't mean that in a bad way. I understand the implications of it. Um, but I don't me attaching sadness to it is difficult for me. Because it's like, especially if they're like really, really old. Now, if they're young, I can definitely be like, oh man, but if they're really old and they lived a long life, I'm probably not going to be sad. As a matter of fact, if you look like, I just don't know why this happened, we didn't see this coming. Like the way my neurospicy work, I'm like, she's 98. You didn't see this coming? Like, bro, it looked like at least since '86, y'all should have been expecting this any day now. Like that would be where my mind goes. And I realized that about me when I was a child, and I learned how to kind of mask that, and it helps because I'm an empathetic crier. So everybody's, oh, see, he crying, he's sad too. If you only knew. Let somebody tell a joke real quick and see how quick these sorrow tears turn into laughing tears. Um, but no, like I've never attached to death as inherently negative. You know what I'm saying? Um, and I don't know, maybe I just had better cartoons when I was a kid. Because sometimes they dealt with stuff like that. Things, all dogs go to heaven and shit like that. And but either way, death became to me from a very natural, from a very young age. It was a natural part of life, outside of somebody taking your life. But even somebody taking your life is still a natural part of life. When a lion eats a gazelle, we say that's the nature of life. So, or it's the circle of life or whatever. This is life on the jungle. Like, yeah, that still applies to us too. It's life. It's unfortunate. We haven't fixed that problem yet. So it makes no sense for me to act shocked every time I'm reminded that that problem isn't fixed yet. We don't have a solution. So I'd have no reason to attach myself to being shocked or surprised. Now, that doesn't mean if it's somebody close to me that I wouldn't be sad. It's different. But the older they are, the less sad I'll be. Actually, especially if they were in pain, and that may be where a lot of this comes from. Because I think a lot of those early funerals I went to when I was a child, it was definitely people who were super duper old, people who were bedridden, and I just couldn't understand everybody crying and yelling, and I'm like, but like she seemed a lot more comfortable now than she was before, you know. And that's funny. I went to a lot of women's funerals. That is odd. Hmm. Memories. All right. So, um, but yeah, so we've kind of talked about that these visitation and chaplain services, how they can be helpful. Things that you can do is you can obtain training in secular chaplaincy. They do have non-religious resources for that. Of course, learn empathetic communication and psychological first aid. And I loved that concept, psychological first aid. I'm going to have to do a deep dive on that one. Network with local healthcare providers to understand their protocols, and consider mental health first responder training to better serve individuals in crisis. And these steps help leaders make sure that leaders can confidently offer genuine human compassion in secular contexts. And this helps to strengthen community trust. All right, so let me see if I can roll through the rest of these fairly quickly. The next one is deconversion ceremonies, the purpose of these is to acknowledge and celebrate an individual's departure from religious beliefs, providing closure and affirming their newfound worldview. Deconversion ceremonies validate the struggle and journey of leaving faith. They provide a communal witness to personal autonomy and growth. On a global scale, normalizing such ceremonies affirms that transitioning away from religion is a legitimate life event worthy of communal support and celebration, encouraging more societies to accept deconversion as a healthy and respectable choice. And like this one should be a no-brainer. Immediately, many of us should have been like, yeah, that kind of would be nice, to just feel that support. But a few things you can do to help you in this area is become knowledgeable about common challenges faced during deconversion. Some of you already qualify there. Develop a set of non-religious rituals or symbolic activities that resonate with each individual's journey. So the burning ceremony is always a good one. Can't really do that one indoors, but that gives you, more outdoor activities. Well, you can do it indoors, but you need to be safe. Offer group discussions or peer support groups for those in similar transitions. And then study religious trauma counseling and read research on faith transitions. And remember, there are religious trauma training out there. And so the next one is coming out celebrations. Yes, the secular community should be all over this. Celebrate personal revelations of identity, such as LGBTQ plus coming out in a supportive and non-judgmental community environment. By honoring coming out moments, secular communities champion inclusivity, diversity, and unconditional acceptance. Such recognition shows that one's identity is valued on human terms without dogmatic restrictions. Globally, celebrating these milestones in secular communities can inspire broader cultural shifts towards recognizing individuals from the pride communities, their rights, and their humanity. And of course, educate yourself on the issues, languages, and best practices for allyship. Partner with the local advocacy groups to ensure inclusivity and awareness. Create customizable ceremonies that respect personal stories and affirm individual identity. And consider diversity and inclusion training. Leaders skilled in this area help normalize love, acceptance, and authenticity, fueling global recognition of human rights. You can also do group ceremony. That's a different thing. All right, group therapy. We just provide a communal setting where members can process collective challenges, share experiences, and find mutual support. And to be clear, the secular community is already doing a phenomenal job of making this happen online, but we've really got to put some gas on the fire of getting this happen in real time and in real life for people as well. Which I don't like saying in real life because online still is in real life, and we shouldn't approach it with that antiquated view that online is somehow not real life. But we need that real time connection. We need to be in the same place and time, same space and time. All right. Okay. So, and offering group therapy sessions or ceremonially recognized support groups underline that healing and growth can be communal endeavors. Around the globe, when secular communities offer safe spaces for shared struggles, it illustrates that mental wellness, empathy, and mutual understanding can be nurtured without religious frameworks. Some things you can do to get here is, of course, obtain basic training in facilitation, active listening, told you that was going to come back up, and group dynamics. Collaborate with licensed therapists or mental health professionals for guidance. Do, do, do. That is a must. However, I need to be clear. You need to know how to navigate that, because a facility doesn't have to have a cross on it for it to be a Christian mental health facility, you know. So you have to do some homework there, because there are a lot of, number one, pseudo mental health professionals who got their degree or diploma from some diploma mill, and reality just hasn't caught up to what's going on yet. But then there are also very real certified therapists and professionals who, in spite of what they've learned, still prefer to preference their belief. And so when you're collaborating with licensed therapists and mental health professionals, please know that distinction and do your due diligence to make sure that I mean, that should be the thing. They need to be secular. But learn techniques to maintain confidentiality, respect boundaries, and encourage constructive dialogue. And then consider group courses in group facilitation and peer counseling. And then leaders here promote mental health support as a fundamental human right, making secular communities models of emotional resilience. Like, I get it. I know this stuff isn't the sensational stuff, but this is the stuff that matters. And I'm hoping that as we're listing each one, and we're almost through, that you're seeing that these things make a significant impact on the lives of individuals and the community as a whole. Every single one of these. So this next one is important day celebrations. And, this is the holiday season. This is partly what sparked this conversation, because we're having this conversation in Discord right now about how do other people approach the holidays now that they've deconstructed or deconverted. But important day celebrations. We can mark significant cultural, historical, or social anniversaries, such as World Humanist Day, local community milestones with gatherings that foster solidarity and reflection. Celebrating important days without religious overtones shows that culture, history, and human achievements matter on their own terms. Globally, these events highlight human progress and collective memory, strengthening the secular community's identity and influence over cultural narratives. Strategically, it was strategically, and the timing was perfect. I started producing content on my channel like in February. We started launching our Bridge City Global Community Experience in March on Easter Sunday. And that conversation that we had, and that's still available, it was called A Very Secular Easter Sunday, I think. Yeah, Very Secular Easter, something like that. And it was secular as fuck. And it was me, the Apostate Sisters, and Tom Smith, but consider this. And we had a really good conversation about the origins of spring, the celebration of spring, and how it and how it evolved in the Western world into this thing that we now call Easter in the U.S. And what has our experiences been as secular people? What were our experiences as people who were a part of different faith traditions when it came to Easter? And what are our experiences now? And how do we feel about these holidays? And do we feel the need to do anything now? And overwhelmingly in that conversation, there was this need about bringing some of these traditions back to the core of what they once represented, was a celebration of Earth, and our relationship with the environment around us. So yes, you got Christmas on December the 25th, but you also have winter solstice on December the 21st. And then my family, we typically acknowledge Kwanzaa. I don't consider Kwanzaa a celebration. It's almost like a commemoration. Kwanzaa is work for me. It's not, which is why I like Kwanzaa. I like holidays like Kwanzaa. But so then, we got a whole December fest. So from the 21st to the 25th, we're acknowledging lights and shit. And then from the 26th through the 1st, we're acknowledging, which Kwanzaa for me has become, because again, for those of you who know, I'm Pan-African. And it's Pan-Africanism that brought me to humanism. It was my concern for Black people all over the globe that eventually evolved into a concern for people, period, all over the globe. That's how I became a humanist. I became a humanist through Pan-Africanism because that's how beautiful Pan-Africanism is. But yeah, and so then January 1st, I have a few days to celebrate. For many people, that's New Year's. I believe that's Haiti's Independence Day. I want to say that's Dr. John Henrik Clarke's birthday. There's a few things going on. August is another big month for me, Pan-Africanist and all. All right, so, but celebrating important days without religious overtones shows that culture, history, and human achievements matter on their own terms. Globally, these events highlight human progress and collective memory, strengthening the secular community's identity and influence over cultural narratives. And that's what we want. Some things you can do to kind of get prepared for this area is research the significance of these days and gather resources for educational components of ceremonies. Develop event planning skills for smooth and meaningful gatherings. Engage community members in planning to incorporate multiple perspectives, and attend workshops in event management and community organizing. Leaders trained in cultural event coordination help unify secular communities internationally as they mark shared values and milestones. Another one is community outreach programs and community service projects, which this one again should be a no-brainer. Mobilize efforts to improve local neighborhoods, assist the vulnerable, and foster a spirit of cooperation. Community service without religious incentives demonstrates that compassion and altruism are human qualities. In other words, we didn't need to care about your soul to want you to get some food. On a global scale, these initiatives challenge the notion that morality or charitable actions require a deity, proving that people can and do care for each other because it's right and beneficial, not because of divine madness. And I hope y'all are starting to see because I know sometimes when people hear stuff like this, and I said, that's just too simple. But I hope you hear that even though these are simple things we can do, the ramifications that they have are far reaching and are very complex, highly sophisticated. This impacts the argument of atheists are not moral. Can't say that if you see atheists doing community service projects. The more you see that, it changes that narrative. You can't say that if you see a bunch of more secular weddings and secular funerals where atheists are in moments that we've already attached in our minds, in our social zeitgeist, to what it means to be loving and caring. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's what we're talking about. How can atheists change the world? To act like we care. Not just like we know. Okay, it's nice to know. But now let's show them that we care. All right. And so learn about social issues and available resources. Partner with nonprofits, secular charities, and educational institutions. Develop project management and volunteer coordination skills. It'll take you a long way, I promise you. Take courses in community development or nonprofit, which I am building some of those courses right as we speak. And those courses are ultimately free. Like, I've built a library of resources that are free for anybody who's a member of our community. And that's our Bridge City Global community or our community, The Bridge, at large. And so I think this is the last one. Yeah. The last one is individual support services, childcare, after school programs, feeding programs, family mediation services, helping people get their lights cut on. helping people. Like I think when we I'm doing a community development series on our Discord with our group, and one of the things that we talked about, just trying to brainstorm on things that local communities can do as we're building out our campuses. And like one of the ideas was like, laundry is a big issue for people. Everybody can't afford a washer and a laundry machine. They're more expensive than they've ever been before. Transportation is a problem for people, so everybody can't get to the laundromat. We can sit down as a community and come up with ways to provide some solutions to these problems. That's what individual support is. It's addressing day-to-day community needs, offering tangible assistance and support that improve overall quality of life instead of sitting on the fucking sideline and said, it would be better if the billionaires helped you. That's such a fucking cop-out. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what we're saying. We're saying the billionaires are evil. The billionaires should help. You want the evil people's help? That's how fucking caught up you are with money. I don't care how much money you have. If I don't consider you a good person, I don't want your fucking help. We can help each other. There is no honor in looking at poor people when you have the power to do something and saying, yeah, it wouldn't be this bad if those rich people over there would actually help you instead of just doing other stuff. It also wouldn't be so bad if some of us would actually get together and help. But we just always feel so good about being able to call out who the other villain is while not doing a damn thing ourselves. That's bullshit. And I will call that shit out every time. It would behoove you to keep that shit away from me. Yeah, like y'all, that superstitious bullshit. Feel like you done did some shit and you ain't did nothing. Ain't did a damn thing. I've never organized an outreach event in your life. You've never so much as put together a crowd sourcing situation to help somebody that was in trouble. Like, it's so disingenuous, man. It's disingenuous. I didn't like that shit in the church community. I'm damn sure not going to like it in the secular community. I don't want to hear, honestly, anytime I hear somebody talking about some shit that they're not willing to do anything about, I automatically write that shit off as gossip, and I write that person off as immature. Sorry. I do like pronouncing the hard T in immature because I used to pick at other people for doing it. Immature. It's immature, man. I grew up on the R&B music. I know what the name is. It's immature. And then they became IMX for a while. Because they're not immature no more. They're X. Okay. All right. So, but yeah, secular involvement in everyday support services from child care to family support demonstrates that human-centered care doesn't need religious backing. God isn't helping them do that. This is the shit you're able to do when you're committed to working together to help other people. And then some of you say, well, yeah, but they also get to not be taxed, whatever. They could also not be taxed. So can you fucking asshole. Stop making shit barriers that are not barriers. How could I not be taxed? Humanism is classified as a religion in the United States of America, which means that any humanist organization could very well consider itself a religious organization, which means it is automatically designated as a tax-deductible organization according to the IRS. You choosing not to do so for your principles, that's just your dumbass fault. No. We're not going to do what's best for our organization so that we can actually help people because we don't want to be like them. Oh, okay. Dumbass. I'm sorry. I don't really mean that you're a dumbass, but I got to talk my talk. This does have to be somewhat entertaining. All right, I'm playing. I'm serious though, but I am playing. But I'm serious. See, I can play and be serious. Like when LeBron is playing, he's serious as fuck, ain't he? I don't know because I don't even watch the game, but I know other people watch it. So that's why I say that shit. That's a part of communication. Communication has to be mutually beneficial. I talk about things that like I seed things into the conversation that I know are talking points for other people, even if it serves very little importance or significance for me. Communication. All right. But normalizing these services globally challenges stereotypes that only faith-based groups provide real help. And that's really the rub, isn't it? It's the crux. We're at the Rubicon. The die has been cast. The rest of the world needs to see the secular community providing real help. But we now have to define what real help is. And I think we just did that. Real help is helping people right where they are. You know? And that's also how you get your hands on real power. The secular community, to me, seems to be powerless on purpose. You know, it's making a lot of the same mistakes. And again, the secular community is not a monolith, but we need to get organized, even if it's loosely. Like organization, being organized doesn't automatically presume a structure. It doesn't presume a form. It presumes a function. But the form can be whatever it needs to be. The structure can be whatever it needs to be. But we do need to be organized. We do need to be doing more stuff together. We do need to be more strategic. We do need to be more informed. We do need to be more visible and active in actually helping people. Because the narrative is going to be, you only see atheists when they want to stop people from praying. Now, we know that's not true. We know that. But we know that if you weren't informed, and if there are no atheist people doing anything in your community, then all you have is media shaping your worldview about what atheism is and about what it represents. You know? We need to be more visible. Instead, it broadens the recognition that human kindness, experience, and responsibility can anchor communities in a more universal sense of cooperation. There are a myriad of things you can do to become more qualified in any of these areas. But at the end of the day, it's by offering these diverse services, ranging from life ceremonies to community outreach and everyday support, secular community can help individuals mark personal milestones, navigate challenges, and celebrate their humanity. So that's what it means to me when I say we're at Bridge City and the Bridge, that we are progressive thinking, people-centric, and life-affirming. Each of these services normalizes the idea that profound meaning and moral integrity can arise from human cooperation, empathy, and reasoning, rather than divine dictate. Globally, this approach amplifies the presence and credibility of secular communities. As these services spread and find acceptance across cultural boundaries, they reinforce the idea that humanist secularism can stand on its own, bringing compassion, understanding, and stability to countless lives. This collective effort makes an indelible impression on our world, forging pathways to a more inclusive, supportive, and human-centered global society. We need to shift from being just communicators to being champions of community. That's what we're doing with the Bridge and Bridge City Global. As of next year, I'll be doing my best to ensure that our community is a catalyst of resources and support for those compassionate enough to provide these services to those that they love. Because at the end of the day, I've said it once and I will say it again. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that, my friends, is how atheists can change the world. Thank you for joining me in this conversation. I hope you've gotten something of value out of it. That's all I have for now. So make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that alert notification bell. Consider joining, supporting, or connecting with this community channel or content in any way that makes sense for you. And share this video with somebody who you think will get something out of it. And of course, last but not least, check out our amazing line of products. We have merch, we have books. We're literally building, making sure that we have something for everybody. And our merch is dope as fuck, man. It empowers with some style. You need to get some of that in your life. All right, y'all. I love y'all, man. Until next time, stay progressive, keep rising, and stay beautiful. I think I mixed that up, but it works. I'll holla.